Now, Transcorp Power Plc demonstrated robust revenue and profitability growth in its fiscal year 2024, achieving noteworthy milestones. The company's audited results, which were presented to the Nigerian Exchange, showed that its profit before tax rose by 114.71% year-over-year. Revenue rose by an astounding 115.27% year-over-year to 305.9 billion naira. Now, the board of directors has shown its dedication to shareholder value by proposing a final dividend of 3 naira 50 kobo per ordinary share. This will bring the total payout for the 2024 fiscal year to 5 naira per ordinary share when combined with the interim dividend of 1 naira 50 kobo paid at the half year. Joining me now to discuss these results further is Chief Financial Officer, Transcorp Power, Okpogoro. Evans, good morning to you. Such a pleasure to have you here.
Good morning to you as well.
Great. So, I mean, it's great times for Transcorp Power right now.
Right.
You know, a 115% increase in pre-tax profit is highly impressive. We also see a 165% surge in profit after tax for 2024. Not bad at all, right?
Yes.
So what key strategies drove this financial performance?
Thank you. Good morning again, and good morning, everyone. Essentially, to commence this conversation, we have to lay some three foundations. And number one is the fact that for a public quoted company to complete its audited accounts and file with the NGS 3 weeks after year end is massive. And that tells us two things about the organization: passionate and motivated workforce, and as well as a strong leadership from the board providing guidance. Of course, you know, our board is led by Mr. Onarom FCA. And as well as number two is that I was here on Arise TV, and I did say that before the year end, we're going to add 125 megawatt capacity to our plant. We've successfully done that. So, and the impact of that will be felt in this financial year. And number three, at the floor of the NGS, when we went listing, we did tell the investing public that we were going to hit a 500 billion revenue in 2030. And as you've rightly noted, in the audited account for 2024, we have done a revenue of 305 billion, meaning that the 500 target we set for 2030, most likely we're going to hit that in the current financial year. But as you know, let's now go into the numbers. Revenue has grown by 115% from a 142 billion to a 305 billion, and as well as profitability. So this is what we are known for in Transcorp Power. Year on year, you will see that steady growth in our operations, in our revenue, in our performance. And if you take a look at the 5 years record of Transcorp Power, the compound annual growth rate for our revenue is 36%, while profits is growing at 50% compound annual growth rate. But however, if you compare 2023 financials with 2024 financials, you would see that profitability has grown by 165% in terms of our profit. And that really tells us as a people that we have a very passionate, very committed, motivated workforce, and the leadership that is driving these numbers. And all of that is around our cost optimization strategy, our operational efficiency. Basically, you know, our three core is excellence, execution, and enterprise. Doing it right the first time without impacting on the environment, without hurting anyone health-wise, and we operate a very safe environment as well. So again, this is just all about what the numbers are, because the numbers don't lie, and this is Transcorp Power for you.
Right, so great times all around. And of course, Evans, as Chief Financial Officer, your excitement is palpable here, as it should be. But now with significant reduction in the company's, gearing ratio from 64.48% to 29.7%, so I don't misquote any numbers here. How has this improved your financial stability and future investment plans?
Oh, yes. So our gearing ratio reduced because we have now fully settled our USD obligation. We no longer have any USD obligation in our books. That frees up our cash flow. In finance, it's called free cash flow, right? That cash flow is now available for us to invest. And also, we are planning, like I did say last year, we're going to bring 125 megawatts to our capacity to the grid. We did. In this year, we're planning to bring at least 100 megawatt capacity. And we're going to fund it internally. We're not going to go to the bank to borrow. So our free cash flow, which is what you've referred to now, will be available for us to fund the additional 100 megawatts to the grid, and that gives us that stability because we have the funding for such CapEx projects.
Right, and the liquidity is extremely important.
Exactly.
And of course, it's very exciting development, but what challenges and bottlenecks did the company face in achieving this growth, and how did the company navigate them?
Great. So like every power generating company company in Nigeria. We are gas-fired, and by the way, we have the highest number of fleets in Nigeria, and as market leaders, we are gas-fired, and gas is our major feedstock. So every one of us in the sector have that gas challenge. Of course, there's gas investment required in the sector, but we've been able to navigate that because we are the only gas power plant, by the way, that have the gas pipeline just directly connected to us. So we are able to find a way around that because we have committed gas suppliers as well who are also Nigerians, and they are interested in powering the country, right? So we've been able to navigate that because we have a multiple gas suppliers, and that is helping us to navigate that gas challenge, as it were.
All right, that's really great. I mean, let's look at dividend and shareholder value now. You know, shareholders are always excited about this part of the conversation. We've seen the company declare a total dividend of 5 naira per ordinary share for 2024. What message does this send to shareholders, and how does this compare to previous years? Yeah,
previous year we paid 3 naira and 13 kobo, right? In this year, we're paying a full year dividend of 5 naira. So over our records, if you look through our history, we are consistently paying dividend, and, you know, we're growing steadily, as well as also applying back some monies to improve on our CapEx, on our plant and machineries. But this is essentially what we said in my last interview, that we see our shareholders smiling to the bank, and we're going to make good that after the AGM when the shareholders approve what the board has recommended. And that is the message we are sending to our shareholders, is that we'll continue to pay dividend. And I know what my board is thinking. Somewhere in June this year, we're going to be paying another interim dividend, and by year end again. So again, the shareholders will just be going to the bank because their money is working for them.
Right. I mean, dividends always great. You know,
Very
it's always a great time, and it demonstrates strong return on investment for your shareholders, which is extremely encouraging. But beyond dividend payment, what other, you know, plans do you have to ensure long-term shareholder value?
We keep growing our shareholders' value, right? Like you see from the audited numbers, last year our return on equity was 52%. This year, return on equity is 63%, just demonstrating how we're utilizing shareholders' fund to generate profitability. Our assets, return on assets was 14% last year. This year is about 20%. Again, utilizing the resources of the organization to generate value, create value for all stakeholders. And that's what Transcorp really is all about, creating value.
All right. I mean, let's look at some operational issues now in terms of investment climate. We've seen the company's CEO highlight, you know, some key strategic investments to be driving the company's success. Could you elaborate on some of the specific initiatives that have really played a role here?
Okay. So again, first, as an organization, we talk about execution and excellence. We do it right the first time. And one of the things we focus on as an organization is the fact that we must be very efficient, you know, especially in the environment, the macro environment that you see today. If you are not efficient, you will just wipe out your revenue. So one of the things we focus on in Transcorp Power is to be efficient. And everything we do has to run around that discipline of being efficient. And that is a cutting edge for us, as well as cost optimization. You know, those initiatives with the strong leadership of our board, of course. If you know the composition of our board, very robust and very experienced and diversified. With that kind of board, I'm sure there's no company that will not do well. And again, with a motivated workforce, that is our strength.
Right, so there are continued plans for this to continue to soar. But let's look at, you know, still on operations. Transcorp Power, as you highlighted earlier, you pretty much operate major gas-fired power plants in the country. How does the company plan to improve power generation capacity?
Okay, great. That's a very good question. So Transcorp Power today, compared to the national grid capacity, Transcorp Power would account for 7% of what the national grid is. Right? But in reality, Transcorp Power is generating 10% of what the national output is. So what that means, we are doing more than our fair share. But you know, we'll continue to strive to do more because that's what we are. We want to bridge the gap in the sector in terms of providing more power to our people. And that's why I said before the year end, we will be bringing back additional 100 megawatt capacity to the grid. And that is a furtherance of what we believe in, our core focus or core purpose of transforming lives and improving Africa.
Is that cast in stone before the end of the year? Is that a definite plan?
Definite plan. We're adding additional 100 megawatts to our current capacity.
And of course, you have the capacity to execute that.
Of course, yes.
Smoothly.
Yes.
All right, well, let's look at economic impacts because everything boils down to that. Ultimately, doing a great job. But with 20% of Nigeria's installed power capacity under Transcorp Power and Transcorp Power as well, what role does the company play in addressing the country's energy challenges?
Exactly. So what we do, the long-term goal for Transcorp Power PLC is that we want to power 1 in every 4 homes in this country.
1 in every 4 homes.
Which is the long-term goal is that we would account for 25% of total output in Nigeria in terms of power. And that is a long-term goal for us. We've not lost focus of that. We are keeping our eyes on the ball, and that would be achieved.
All right, well, let's look at macroeconomic environment. How does Transcorp Power mitigate the risks such as currency fluctuations, fuel supply disruptions, regulatory changes, for instance?
Yeah, so in terms of the macroeconomy, okay, as it relates to foreign currency fluctuations, the good news for us is that, like rightly noted, we have paid off our USD obligation. So there's no USD obligation in our books, right? So the USD inflows that we're having today, we're using them to offset our USD obligation in terms of capital parts that we have to import. So we do not have significant risk in that space of foreign currency fluctuations. And as it were, with respect to regulatory, we are keeping our eyes on our regulators. For every changes, every amendment of the law that comes up, we ensure that we have our board have a very, what I would refer to as zero tolerance for regulatory infractions, right? So we have a team that is dedicated to keep an eye on all those regulatory changes. As it's happening, we're on top of it. We ensure that we comply, and because there will be no sanction.
What about unforeseens and external shocks that you're not particularly prepared for?
As a business, you should also, we have a risk department, and as well, I'm the chief risk officer as well. So we have to plan and mitigate every risk. So we have that, and the board governance committee is in charge of that as well. And so there's no risk that will come to us that we've not foreseen. We would have foreseen it and mitigate and put plans in place to mitigate any shock that will come. Because as a company, the truth is we're built to last. And that is our foundation. We're not building just for today. We're built to last. That the next generation will come, and of course, we'll see what we've done and take it off from there.
Spoken like as a real risk officer.
Thank you.
I love the confidence. But let's wrap this up by looking at, the company has done fantastically well. And looking at this impressive growth, how do you intend to carry on with this trajectory for the long term?
Great stuff. So as an organization, like I said, we're not built just for today. We have a long-term goal. And I had mentioned that before the end of the year, we're adding 100 megawatts addition to our capacity. That is also preparing us for next year. And there are plans to recover more capacity and also go into other spheres of power generation. So the future outlook is good, and I would like to ask you, if you have shares in Transcorp Power, you better go get. If you don't, because the prices...
Well, it definitely sounds enticing, doesn't it?
It does, because the prices will go over the roof very soon. The market would soon see the intrinsic value that will bring to the table, the exponential growth that is happening in Transcorp Power, and I'm sure it's a good investment. And I'm looking forward to seeing our shareholders in our next AGM that's happening in February. If you could come, please, I would personally invite you to come and see the excitement from our shareholders.
I tell you what, I'm sold. Well,
thank you.
Thank you so much. If you're just joining us, I've been chatting with Okpogoro, who is Chief Financial Officer at Transcorp Power. Congratulations on the great work, and we surely will be keeping an eye on things going on there. All right, many thanks.